items. This is an agenda that will have a joint meeting. And I do understand Councilor Labange is on his way, so we're hoping for him to be here. And we want to accommodate my colleagues in the Planning and Land Use Management Committee, which is the other committee that will have a dual session to cover some of these important land use items as they pertain to the River Master Plan and the River Corridor. But we would like to accommodate some of their adjustments in their schedule. So we'll do first, and they've both been noticed, but we will cover first the Ad Hoc River Committee items, and hopefully by the time we're well into those agenda items, we'll have Councilor Labange here with us. Sounds like a desperate person trying to do it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. Well, so, let's do this. Let's start with item 3. Can we read that into the,
Okay, Councilman, item 3 is the Planning Department and Bureau of Engineering monthly reports relative to the LA River projects.
okay, now, let me make sure I got this right. I have here a verbal presentation by the Mountains Recreation. Right. So it's different than what was mentioned, right? Okay, let's do this, Roberto.
Yeah.
Item 3 will have the verbal presentation by the Mountains Recreation Conservation Authority relative to the plans of the Big Tahunga Wash. If we don't mind, we'll do that first. Okay, yes.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
I have this.
Counselor, just 1 minute.
Sure. Well, thank all of you for being here this afternoon. I appreciate your time.
And can I just move the screen? Sure.
That'll be easier.
Apologies, I've never presented in this room before, so
No problem.
got here early, but I think we can work this out.
Okay, no problem. There you go. There it is. Just move the microphone.
Perfect. Well, thank you. Walt Young, MRCA. We were agendized to give a brief presentation on our acquisition of Big Tahunga Canyon. Talk about the operational and management considerations that we sort of went through as far as developing our park use plan, and then any correlation there may be as far as lessons learned as it relates to Los Angeles river operations. It's a 4-mile trip from the very top of your screen here, where MRCA owns about a 6-acre parcel, to the bottom, which is down here at Foothill. The park property actually encompasses this entire area here.
Wow.
This is Oso Street. This is about a 2.5-mile trip. And the city of Los Angeles owns a small pocket park where my pointer is.
And the open space that you just circled right there, that's all part of the park?
That's correct. About 80
Wow.
acres.
80
So it
acres.
actually goes up into the foothills here. Our primary focus is along the riverbed. And down here is the Angelus Golf Course. And
Gotcha.
the MRCA received the property as far as mitigation for that golf course. So that's how it came into a public view. And it's a lovely property.
Yes.
The water flow is actually controlled by Big Tahunga Dam upstream. So it is a regulated body of water. And this is, like I said, all along the 4-mile stretch, you will see, these pictures were taken as recently as 2 weeks ago, where, as you know, we're about half normal rainfall, and then also come 4th of July. So these are all taken with my Android camera, and I'm not a photographer, during basically low water events. So the flow in here is pretty much like this all of the time.
Was this, is this in its natural state, or is this with any influence from any flood control efforts?
It's regulated, the water flow itself is regulated by the Pictahunga Canyon Dam,
Right.
which is probably up 8 miles upstream. But other than that, between that 8-mile stretch, it's all unregulated as far as open watershed.
Wow.
And then the dam, again, regulates up through the Angelus.
It's all natural.
And it's used. It's used heavily. This is last 4th of July. This is actually right at our property line and Department of Water and Power. And parking in the upper stretch is along Pictahunga Canyon Road. And as you can see by the cars, very, very busy stretch. So we have been involved in the Los Angeles River for a period of time, and we wanted to avoid all of those discussions, for lack of a better way of putting it. And so as a park agency, we took the position that the public trust doctrine applies. As long as someone has a lawful way of getting into the water itself, once they're there, they're there. So we're regulating land use, not water use. And for water use for public safety, we're using the State Harbors and Navigation Code, the safety regulations. And we've often been asked over the last 3 months, well, what about permits? What about permits from Army Corps? What about permits from the county? And the second bullet point, we believe, solves for that problem. In other words, you don't have to get a permit to not do something. We're not regulating the in-water use. We believe the first bullet point applies. So as such, we don't have to get an Army Corps permit to say nothing about an activity that we believe lawfully applies. And that's our out, and that's what we're sticking to. There are two operational issues.
I'm not arguing with that.
We're in a unique position in that we don't lay claim to fee ownership of the dirt underneath the water. Obviously, everything's not all sweetness and light as far as the nice pictures that you saw before. We did have to do a hazard and risk assessment, talked about the duty to warn issues. We felt we had an overwhelming duty to make things safer, not just the existing condition. And fortunately, there are public resources code immunities for active recreation and specifically kayaks for public agencies. The first thing we looked at was the fact that one size does not fit all, in our opinion. Clearly, the vertical sides on the left poses different management issues than the trapezoidal sides or natural sides. And on the hazard assessment, we divided it into 2 areas, static water and static hazards versus moving water. We'll always have drowning and slip and falls and crime and water quality, but that goes really to any park. What is unique to both the Los Angeles River and Pictahunga is the moving water hazard. And but our view is, as down on the bottom, when there's no flow, there really is no hazard other than the static. And so how many days are those? Are there 5 days where the water runs, or 10, or 15, or 30? And there is a reason why it's 36.5 listed on that. And that most of our policies of existing waterways does what? It regulates for the 10% of the time, and that's being generous, when it is unsafe to be in the water. Realistically, it's 3 to 6% of the time it's unsafe to be in there, in our opinion, as now waterway managers. The county has an excellent program. It's the No Way Out video and training program. That No Way Out training program addresses that 3 to 5%, and it does address their unique problem. and that is the concrete side flood control channels. I don't want anyone to misconstrue that I think they're wrong on their type of facilities, but we do view it being wrong for Big Tahunga as an example, because 97% of the time it is safe to be there and safe to recreate. We also looked at the flip sign program, which I know the city's looking at as it relates to how to warn, and we've taken a different approach. Here's current regulatory signs that you see, the famous city 4122 river sign, of course the federal government, county public works, which again works very well for their particular situation. But this is our specialty sign, and here's something better you can read. It starts off with a standard disclaimer, hazardous activity, no lifeguard on duty. As far as regulations that we would cite for, Harbors and Navigation Code as it relates to must wear life jackets when you're out on the river. Harbors and Navigation Code also allows us to exclude motorized vessels.
We just started.
And then a special finding on our ordinance that when there's a severe flood or warning or watch, that you can't be on the park property in adjacent to moving water. And then under warnings, water conditions subject to change, can't travel in and around swiftly moving water, and slippery surfaces. So this is the approach that we're taking up there.
Right.
You can be in the water, you have to be careful. The corollary between the two, I think, is pretty evident. Big T on the left, Los Angeles River on the right. Safety, active recreation, both of those are LACCs on the right as far as the kayak program. Fishing occurring at both areas, one lawfully, one unlawfully. Lawful in our program, just like kayak. Lawful at Big T. Training of volunteers. We have a mountain bike unit that's specially trained now. That again is LACC on the left at a Colorado River training. Common communications. We've established now a river radio system that's going to be applicable for Big T and the Los Angeles River. That's going to be accessible by anybody. Of course, homeless on the left, graffiti on the right, and then funding. Big T, we're fortunate in that we have in perpetuity funding from the developer as part of the mitigation for the golf course.
Right.
We do have 84 funds. Over on the LA River, we do have Prop A. We do have special public safety, but has been the issue with everything, general operational funds in order to run a park program along the Los Angeles River is still the ongoing challenge.
Yeah. Well, one is I want to first thank you for being part of that change in the culture of how we look at our water bodies here in not only in the river but in the tributaries and all the different ecosystems that run along it. So that to me is significant in terms of how we change the attitude of the public, but more importantly to emphasize the safety factors and letting people understand that it is a dangerous place if you're careless, and that all the support systems we need to put into place. I think we're learning from experience how we can get better at this. I think the fundamental issues are being addressed thanks to your hard work and the Sama Conservancy and the whole river family that's been working on this for years now.
Thank you very much. And if the ad hoc committee wants a tour, just let me know.
That'd be great.
Go out there and
Okay.
recreate.
Councilor Labange, thank you for joining us. It's been joined by Councilor
I wanna ask
Labange.
this great ranger, how's the little T doing?
Don't know, not mine.
Really? But it's near there. It's near the Big T, right?
What's that?
Little Tahunga's near Big Tahunga?
It's next canyon over.
Yeah.
Literally, there's dirt in between the two. As far
Uh-huh.
as the range.
Right.
It comes out of the Angelus also, of course, and into Pasadena.
Right. Yeah. And the next question, the word wash, W-A-S-H, is there another word that would be more modern to what we're about? And that's open to anybody in this room if they thought, well, it's Tahunga Wash, right?
Oh, wash, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Right.
usually refer to it now, we think we're referring to it as Tahunga Canyon Recreation Area.
Right. But as far as the water body,
Yeah,
you know,
that may even be set by U.S.
I got it, but things get changed. I'm just saying that I think if we want to change the name from wash, All I can think is wash is my mama telling me I didn't wash myself before I ate. And my mom's in heaven, so I'm thinking, okay, what would there be a name? And I throw that out to everybody. If Creek, Tahunga Creek, Big Tahunga Creek, something. So we should.
And other times it's a river, right?
Yeah. So it's something to think about. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
Say hello to Big Joe. Huh?
In terms of
Yeah.
the kayaking, is that a program that you're looking at developing? The kayaking program, is that something you're looking to develop, or?
Yeah, we, interesting you say that. We've already had preliminary discussions with LACC in order to mirror the existing program. And Mother Nature has not, the answer is probably not this year.
Okay,
We're at half the rainfall.
all right,
And I don't think it'll support it this year.
okay. Well, thank you for your strong
Process.
support in making this regional asset accessible, so thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Great. Okay, now we'll jump into item 3, Department of City Planning and Bureau of Engineering monthly reports relative to the LA River. Good afternoon.
We just did that one.
Good afternoon, Claire Bowen, Los Angeles Department of City Planning, and I'm happy to report that we are making progress on the Cornfield Arroyo Seco specific plan. As I reported last time, we did close our public comment period on the draft environmental impact report. We are reviewing those comments now and actually preparing the response to comments with an intention of releasing the final environmental impact report along with the revised Cornfield Arroyo Seco specific plan on April 16th, and then having an open house and a staff public hearing on May 10th. We'll do that from 4:30 to 6:30 for the open house and 6:30 to 8:30 for the staff public hearing, and then intending, if we can keep to this pace, and then intending to be in Planning Commission on June 14th.
Great. Well, thank you for that hard work. I know it's challenging, but we're making this move, so thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Claire.
I think we're here to, when we get back to our other agenda, talk about the river improvement overlay, so I think I'll wait till
Right.
then to discuss that. Thank you.
Let's do that. Thank you. Next.
My name is Stephen Anderson. I'm with the successor agency to the Community Redevelopment Agency and wanted to report on our activities.
I like that. Successor agency. Good.
Designated Local Authority, I guess our official name is CRA DLA. So we have an existing MOU with the River Corporation, and through the term of the MOU, we will continue to provide transactional expertise per their request through the end of the MOU. We are trying to get the MOU on our enforceable obligation list and anticipate that it will be approved by once the State Oversight Board is in place. One of the conditions of Assembly Bill 26 is that we sell our properties off in the most expeditious timeline and to maximize value. Those two issues are in conflict with each other. So we're waiting once the Oversight Board is in place, we're waiting for direction from them on how to proceed with the disposition of our property portfolio, but our property portfolio lists that will be up for distribution should be out in mid-March. And then lastly, concerning the grants that CRA has been working with on behalf of the river, we would know by in the next 4 to 6 months if we can transfer our grants over to CDD or other city departments. So we'll continue to advise you on where we are on that side as well.
Great. Well, without the CRA, a lot of the stimulant policies, funds, and activity wouldn't be there. So, again, thank you for your hard work, because it's played a significant role in getting into where we're at today in certain pockets along the corridor. So, again, thank you for that.
Of course, and we encourage the River Corporation to continue to reach out to us through the MOU regarding any land acquisition or dispositions. I mean,
Okay.
we want to fulfill the obligation.
I think certain ears perked up when you said that, so that's good. Thank you.
Good afternoon, council members. Carol Armstrong with the Bureau of Engineering LA River Project Office. First, I want to add to our regular progress report that we had a very successful River Update meeting last Thursday, the 23rd, and I want to thank everyone here. I want to thank you, Councilman Reyes, for being there, for making remarks. I want to thank the principal of the LA River School at the Sonia Sotomayor Learning Academy. We had between 60 to 100 people there at any one time. It was a really successful meeting. We're super excited. We had about 20 different organizations there talking about their own river projects. hosting tables. So everyone here, thanks a lot. That was great.
So
I
just
also-
for the record,
Mhm.
RUM means again?
River Update Meeting.
Not to be confused with anything else.
That's right.
Okay,
And we
great.
do these annually now to go out to the public and talk about where we are in terms of progress on implementation of the LA River Revitalization Master Plan.
What's impressive showing, you had, how many agencies you had there?
We had about 20 different organizations at the
Right.
table, and then in the presentation we had about 3.
Amazing, okay.
Very,
Good job.
Very excited. There's still so much riverly energy after all this time and in this economic climate. So,
Fantastic.
related to that, we're very excited about the progress on the LA River Ecosystem Restoration Feasibility Study of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. I'm sure, as everyone already knows by now, that the headquarters of the Army Corps of Engineers has included $350,000 for the study in their work plan, which is huge when you consider only $1 million was available nationwide. And that had to do a lot with the advocacy of you, Councilman Reyes, and Councilman Labange, and the team that went to Washington in January.
Which is, we had strong presence from the River Corporation, so
That's right.
my hat goes off to them.
Yes. So thanks to everyone. Also, for the first time ever, the LA River Ecosystem Restoration Feasibility Study was included in President Obama's budget. And it was $100,000, which is great. We don't know if it'll be passed by Congress, but still, to get in the budget is awesome. And it was the first time that it has happened. So everyone should feel really good about that. Congratulations to everybody about that.
So the significance is having recognition in the budget as opposed to the amount of money there now.
That's right.
Okay, great. I want to make sure I'm emphasizing that, so that's
right.
good.
So we're very excited about that. Also, related to that, we had a huge turnout today for the city team meeting on the study with about 20 different people from the different city departments and agencies. And we've already scheduled the next meeting for April 30th. April 30th, and super excited for that. Basically, the Army Corps study now has about 19 different alternatives, and we are looking forward to narrowing those to between 3 and 5 very soon. 3? Okay, 3, yeah. Ideally 3. Lastly, I just wanted to mention that I was present at the City Planning Commission when they adopted the Rio on February 9th, and it was super exciting. Claire Bowen did an awesome job, and I'm very proud of her. It's been 5 years since the master plan was adopted, so this now is the time. It's very exciting that we are here at this moment, and congratulate everyone on that one. This is huge for us. And I also actually said lastly, but I have one more thing to add. My river brother, Michael Affelt, is here. I want to formally introduce him to everyone. Larry Shue, who was my river brother, who has been wonderful to all of us and committed to the river and will still be in the building, so we will continue to harass him. But he has moved on, and so from now on you will see me or Michael here presenting to the committee. So thanks to everybody.
Okay. I do want to take a moment and welcome and thank Commissioner Lopez Mendoza for being here with us. And I know you were there that evening with us. Would you like to share any thoughts with us in committee regarding Commissioner? You're more than welcome to. It's up to you. No? Okay.
And I apologize. I can only stay for a few minutes. My daughter has a basketball game. I need to go get her, and she's 4.
Great.
But it was a wonderful
She's 4?
evening. She's 4 years old.
And how tall is she?
Not very. She's 4.5, and she's on the 4 to 6 league at Granada Hills.
Good job. Good
And
job.
She's
Good.
she's the only girl and the littlest one on the team, so I need to sort of be there to be
Charge.
supportive. But I thought it was an incredible event, and I actually told my colleagues on the board the next day and commended all the folks who had worked on it, because there was just wonderful energy and the inclusion of so many of the stakeholders who are interested in moving the river forward. Were there to hear about the most recent updates. Just wonderful energy in the room, and it was clear a lot of hard work has gotten us to this place, and just figuring out how to move forward from here. It's all about the money and the commitment, and I want to thank you again for your leadership on this, and you, Councilmember Labange, and we wouldn't be here but for the commitment of you and the staff, and folks like Claire and Lupe and Carol, who I actually met when we all went to Israel to look at waterfront and river restoration efforts. So
Wow.
they're just wonderful folks. So I think you have just a great movement going here.
Thank you, Commissioner. Again, we want to keep your daughter waiting, but I appreciate all your hard work, all your timing, and eventually she'll be slam dunking before you know it. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, so that concludes the item we will note and file.
I just want to check. I didn't get asked, Dr. Armstrong.
Yes, I'm sorry,
You talked
Councilmember.
about a rum.
That's right.
So what's a WEGO?
What?
Owego.
I don't know.
What is going on? That's a weekly thing. All right, here's the question. What's going on with Sunny Nook Park? Do you have a report on that? Is that what this is about?
It always includes Sunny Nook River Park.
Is that in your rum?
Sunny Nook was mentioned in the RUM.
Okay.
There is going to be, as far as I understand, as early as today, there's going to be a pre-bid conference because we want to bid the project as soon as possible.
Did the Record Parks Commission and your department get along with their dispute? Or do you know?
As far as I understand, most of the disputes have been resolved, and it is my understanding that the next commission it has to go before is DWP.
Okay.
It's already been through
Record Parks.
Yes.
Good, very good. Okay, let's go across the river
Okay.
up at Chevy Chase.
Yes.
What do we call in that area?
The North Atwater Park expansion?
Right. Should we tie it into the river? I mean, I'm just thinking, because part of this, and everybody here is, we're all swimming the same way, but when you brand something or market it, it becomes something. So I just want to lay it out there because we have a dedication coming up. So if there's something that makes sense for the river, it's a confluence really of all the street water from Glendale goes down Chevy Chase, and that all comes out there. So, it's I don't know. Just throw it out there. So now's the time to think.
Okay, it's my understanding that when they name the project and they seek grant funds for it and funds are awarded, that the name is sort of stuck unless something special is done to change it. So
well,
maybe
he's
we
a
need to
special guy. I'm a special guy,
Okay.
and there's another 13 special people down in
Okay.
room 3. I'm just saying, think about
Okay.
what it is. I don't know.
I love
think
that.
I think it's if there's something would be, and the same thing. I don't know if the ranger understood it. I know the ranger a long time. Wash means like what does it mean? But if we like when you call something the Rio, now we understand it's a river. And the Rio Grande. One of the great rivers.
Well, we very much appreciate that. And moving forward, anyone who has a project that's going to be near the river, we'd like for them to think about including some kind of riverly term in the name of
Right.
the project.
Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Armstrong. Thank you, Councilmember.
Yeah, thank you.
So we will note and file both reports, all 3 reports, and again, thank you for your hard work. Next item would be item number 4.
Yes, council members. Item 4 is a Water and Power quarterly status report relative to the work performed on the rights-of-way along the LA River.
Hi,
Hello,
good to see you.
thank you. Kelly Bernard, Director of Economic Development for Department of Water and Power, and I'm being joined by my colleague from the Water Group. And I'll let you
Great.
Hello, Chairman Reyes, Councilman LaBonge. My name is Dave Pettyjohn. I'm the Manager of Water Resources.
Afternoon, council members. Paul Liu, DWP, and the Water Recycling Program.
Great.
Councilman, just very quickly, the bulk of the report will be on the update on some of the projects that are going on in the water. But Councilman, you mentioned the Sunny Nook project, and I did want to let you know that it's in our court now. It's being scheduled to go to our board either the first or second meeting in April. So we're working on that.
Very well.
It should be resolved by then. So
Thank
just
you.
wanted to let you know that that's being taken care of.
Thank you.
And so, and that's it. And so now.
Well, I was asked to come over and speak to you about our involvement in several things that affect the river.
Yes.
So one of those is the WISER committee that we're involved in. And, of course, the acronym is Watershed Infiltration for Supply and Environmental Restoration. And I thought Carol did a great job inventing that, and so it makes us all feel very wise in dealing with the river. But the LA Department of Water and Power has been involved in that, and we have projects that are going to affect the river in quite a large way. Probably the one that I'd like to speak to you the most about today is our Stormwater Capture Master Plan, but also we're working on a Recycle Water Master Plan, and Paul has been very involved in that at the department. But we're involved in other things as well. You heard Carol mention the Army Corps study of the river, and we've been contributing to that. We just contributed $1 million to that study.
Yes.
And we've been involved in the meeting this morning about comments on various things that will affect the department's facilities along the river and how those can work to help with that project. And
Just for the record, you did the
yes.
initial funding for the master plan itself.
Yes, we did.
Back in
That's
the day,
correct.
so-
I think it was about $3 million originally. Yes,
Right.
That's right. So we have a lot of the same goals. We feel that we're very invested in the river. We've got a lot of things that we would like to do that would incorporate some of the more regional goals of the rivers, things like open space and environmental restoration and dealing with some of the flow regimes in the river. And I wanted to mention to you the Stormwater Capture Master Plan. I think that the goals of our master plan are going to work quite well with the river. This master plan is essentially going to help us develop strategies for implementation of stormwater and watershed management programs and projects along the river and elsewhere in the city. But a lot of the work we're going to be doing is going to be in the San Fernando Valley, where a lot of the runoff goes directly into the river. And with these projects and programs, we're going to try to capture a lot of that stormwater, and that'll have a beneficial effect on the river, water quality, and help us with our water supply. So we know there are multi-beneficial aspects of the various projects and programs we're going to investigate as part of the Stormwater Capture Master Plan. And those will include, we're going to consider open space alternatives, improve downstream water quality, flow attenuation in the downstream channels and creeks such as the LA River. So all these things are going to be a part of an overall program that we're going to try to develop with this master plan. We're going to award the contract for the master plan this spring of this year. And we're planning on having the plan completed in 2014. And we're working with our sister departments in the city, Bureau of Engineering and Bureau of Sanitation, but we're also working with the county Department of Public Works, and then some other outside of the city organizations like Tree People and the River Project. So we're trying to have kind of a holistic view of the effects that this plan can have on the city, and this will guide the department in how it makes various investments between now and 2035 to reach the goals in our 2010 Urban Water Management Plan for stormwater capture. That plan has a goal of achieving an additional 25,000 acre-feet of additional stormwater capture by 2035. And for those in the audience who may not know what an acre-foot of water is, water wonks, we talk about an acre-foot of water, but sometimes people don't know what that is. But if you took a football field and you covered it a foot deep with water, that would be an acre-foot. So you can imagine a 25,000 acre-feet, it'd be 25,000 feet column of water covering a football field. So that's the magnitude of what we'd like to do between now and 2035.
Great. Part of the challenges as a policymaker is to be able to absorb at least the breadth of this impact, which is amazing. Is there anything in writing or on the website that allows us to get a sense of what these array of programs, how it impacts the city and or the region? Is there a way to absorb this? Because it's very technical in nature, sure. But when Joe Citizen is asking, well, what's Water and Power doing about this? How are they getting involved? What's the easy way to respond?
It's a very good question, Chairman Reyes. And the answer is that the department has on its website its 2010 Urban Water Management Plan. In that management plan, it has a fairly in-depth discussion of what our goals are. And you can read it in the plan, the goals for recycle water, stormwater, all the different water supply programs and projects, water conservation, other things that the city would like to accomplish, and how the department is going to make investments to do that are all in the plan. We've got pretty ambitious goals for between now and 2035 to reach some of these goals. Of course, we've got a lot of money that we're going to have to spend on various things to achieve these goals. One of the, I think, foundational issues that the department faces is the contamination of our groundwater basin in San Fernando Valley. Right. That's going to require quite a large investment. But with that investment, we'll achieve additional pumping in the San Fernando Valley that we can't do right now because of the contamination of the basin. But there are a lot of things like that in that plan, and it's essentially simple to get to that plan. It's at ladwp.com. And
well, I appreciate that, and we'll take a look at that and see how we continue supporting you and your efforts, because it's really, I'm going to put this, it's a reciprocation of efforts that will allow us to get to our goals, I believe, and a healthier city. One of the, and I've been having this discussion during budget and finance, that dialogue about how you grow this pie that we call the city budget and all of its ancillary departments. And one of the challenges we have is understanding how land is managed from different departments. And my hat goes off to Bureau of Sanitation. They've been in that process of evolving and changing the culture and how you look at your asset base. We've been challenging the Department of Transportation, other departments where you do have this strategic locations that seem to live in silos. Cross-referencing these discussions in the context of where we store water, how we store it, how we get access to it, and using those relationships to leverage a greater benefit is a direction I'm hoping we can get to. And I think it starts with just understanding what we're doing as different departments, and I think we're getting there. And I raise that because it is about location. Where does water exist? Where does it flow? Where can you store it? And those are difficult questions to answer.
That's a very good point. I think those questions are challenging for us as well, and that's one of the reasons that we've embarked on the Stormwater Capture Master Plan, is to try to get some answers to those very questions. So we're hoping that as we develop this plan with inside the city, and we don't see it as a siloed plan that's just a DWP look, we're going to try and collaborate with the other city departments on this. It'll give us a vision for what type of investments that the department can make in things that will not only benefit the health of our groundwater basin, but will also have a lot of ancillary benefits to the city as well. And so we're hoping to achieve that goal.
Thank you for being here. We've been joined by Councilman Jose Huizar, who's on the Planning and Land Use Committee as well, and the River Committee too, right? So we'll move into that direction because I know we have other questions?
No, just real quick on easements. You have easements. You're going to keep those easements, but you're going to allow us to have some access to that? What's our plan?
Well, I think we've done some of that. We've had some work that we've allowed people to come in and do stormwater capture programs on some of the.
Well, no, I mean even along. Who's on the power side here? But the power has more easements on the river than I think water does.
Yes, they do. That's correct.
So if you want to answer that,
that
I think you should protect your easements, even protect it from us, because I know there was this case years ago where Kaiser Permanente was at Colorado Street and the river, the northwest side. Now it's a Korean church. Kaiser wanted to make a little playground because Kaiser likes everybody to thrive, and they sold their property. And the easement, and this is under John Ferraro's time, and Water Power was very friendly to John Ferraro because of his leadership, they did get the easement up there, which now is not public domain. So I think it's real important to keep your easements, but allow us to cross or have parks or whatever. That's a value. There'll be pressure on you for that. Also on the spreading basins, which predates the headworks, that's what the spreading basins were called on Forest Lawn Drive. You had rubber dams. In fact, some engineer on the 13th or 14th floor designed the most famous rubber dams. There's one sitting there. How many rubber dams do you have on the river now? Or do you know?
Operational rubber dams? I don't.
Well,
think
you
we have
crank
any.
them.
I think
You crank them.
those. I don't think those dams have been operational for over a decade now.
Well, you used to crank them up, Ed, and they would make a dam right by Forest Lawn, and then they take the water out of the river, pump it into the spreading basins, and then go back into the river. But also, too, you have wells that you've abandoned. The Equestrian Center in Griffith Park once was all a well field. The John Ferraro soccer field, the 26 acres, was all a well field. Mm-hmm. The Pollock well, which is down at Fletcher, was developed because of the pollution and all this enhancement. I don't know if you're scientific engineers or not, but how long would this water move? The Lockheed problem, how long will that be in the East San Fernando Valley?
Well, that's one of our biggest problems, frankly,
Right.
is this contamination issue in the San Fernando Valley. And what we're
From
embarking-
aviation primarily
Yes,
in the 40s and 50s.
And we could the city could approach it where we wait until we can tag somebody with the cleanup costs, or we could try to do what we can do now and hopefully try to find people who are responsible parties and get them to pay for it. But
Let me ask you a question. If you took East Valley Water, which was the old East Valley Water Reclamation Plant, Tillman, and you pump the water into the wells and you let it through a decade. I mean, one thing about water and power, you've been around 100 years plus, and so those type of periods of times are not fearful. We want to see something done by next summer or the summer after. But what if you started pumping that water, the reclaimed water, into those wells to try to push the pollutants out, which ultimately would, everything gets recycled in this world of ours. Because I know the East Valley project is stopped now, right?
it is, and probably Paul's he's our expert on this issue, so I'm going to let him.
Paul, tell us what we should know.
Councilmember LeBlanc, as you know, the East Valley project, the original project of spreading tertiary, basically was put on hold. However, the good news coming out of the master plan is that pending funding, we are planning to build an advanced treatment facility similar to the one down in Orange County, the Orange County water system, GWR system, groundwater replenishment system, to be able to spread that advanced treated water up at Hanson. And so obviously, so the point you bring up, the solution to pollution is dilution. Getting that recycled water into the ground actually will clean up the water, in my opinion. However, as you know, we still do have to treat the groundwater on the way out because of contamination. And that's another project that is pending funding, but that is greatly needed to protect the asset of our groundwater basin.
Right, because we used to get up to 70% of our water from the underground wells. What are we now getting? Below 10%?
I believe to about 10% or so.
Or less.
12%, yeah, it's quite a bit less.
Right.
Anyway, it's pretty significant, Ed, but I think it should be looked at, two things, from the land use side and then also from the water side, and then get them to use that. And then anywhere you can, use reclaimed water just to let it flow, even to bring back creeks that are dry. I think that's an enhancement.
It's the significance of reassessing the current parameters to see how we can evolve in the future is critical. What strikes me, and I'm echoing Councilor LaBonge's thoughts in terms of the rubber dams and how they're used. Tempe, Arizona, they have, I think they're 18 feet high or 20 feet. And I was speaking to their engineers, and they're telling me that our water and power actually holds the patent for the rubber dams, and that we invented this. And they created an artificial water body, but nevertheless, they created a man-made lake-like facility. And their land use patterns changed accordingly because now they created a water feature that never existed before. And that, to me, was an amazing economic development strategy. Created value along the land on a river body that did not exist before, maintained the flood control capacity, and generated a whole revenue base that did not exist before. And so that which was neglected became a viable option of how you look at your space. And so I think we're at that stage in our city where we need to really assess what's in front of us, and I think the questions being raised by Councilor LaBonge begs that question: what else can we do? And then that's where we'll be hopefully hearing more from yourselves as our experts in this field, and I appreciate your being here. I'll be blunt with you, as the first time in my chairmanship of this committee that we had this level of input from Water and Power at this degree, and for that I truly thank you, because it does verify the partnership we are forming. Well, Councilor Rizar, anything?
No questions.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman Ramos.
Do you wish to notify the report?
Yes, we will notify the report. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, we do have Councilman Rizar here with us, so let's shift to the joint committee side. Well, what's the technical term? We hold this part of the meeting and just hold it on the table, I guess?
Yes.
And then we'll open up the official joint committee of land use and river, having here with us Councilor LaBonge, Councilor Wisar, and that allows us to jump into item number 1.
Yes, Councilman. Item 1 is a planning department report. It's a proposed ordinance that would create enabling legislation for an LA River overlay district.
Great. Please identify yourself.
Claire Bowen, Los Angeles Department of City Planning, and I am here to present to you the proposed River Improvement Overlay District. You may recall we discussed this item a couple of years ago, and this is actually, we've made some revisions to the document and went back to Planning Commission for for their approval for this revision. I'm just going to briefly walk you through what the proposed ordinance is going to do. It obviously stems directly from the Los Angeles River Revitalization Master Plan that you all adopted, 5 years ago, and this is really one of the first steps to take a look at how we might provide some design standards for properties that are basically within the same boundaries of the master plan for the river. What we're proposing to do is actually establish a supplemental use district that would allow us to actually create RIOs for multiple river corridors. We're obviously going to talk in item 2 about the first one today, which will be for the Los Angeles River, but it really will provide us opportunity to create RIOs for potentially in the future for the Tahunga Wash, for the Bayona Creek, for the Arroyo Seco. So I think that's a wonderful opportunity. We recognized during the master plan when we were looking at the boundaries for that, again, that first RIO for the Los Angeles River, that many communities kept asking us to actually create RIOs for their communities and their tributaries at that point, and we felt that that'd be going kind of too far afield to make such a large RIO the first time out, but did say, hey, we'll create this RIO, this first one, and then you can come back in the future and develop specific RIOs for your communities. But we've set it up with the supplemental use district by putting the design standards in the RIO itself. It then makes it very easy for those future RIOs to get created because the standards are already embedded in the supplemental use district. They have to just basically establish the boundaries they want to use for those RIOs, and then they could move it forward. I think one of the things that's really important to emphasize that any RIO, once it gets created, it doesn't make any changes actually to the river. Sometimes there's confusion about that. It really is just the properties that are within the boundary on the banks of the river, based on the boundaries that you've established. It actually does not change the zoning in any way. It basically just establishes design standards that go on top of the existing zoning. And it only would apply to new projects in any major remodel. So all the existing properties are not suddenly going to be hit with these new design standards unless they come forward and make a major redevelopment. And obviously they only apply, again, once a RIO is actually established for a particular boundaries. So the design standards, there's just a few. We really wanted to keep them fairly minor. The kind of the first one is kind of the most comprehensive is around landscaping. We think that's really critical for creating a healthy palette or in the river corridor. We're going to actually require, we're creating what we're calling an inner core, saying that properties immediately abutting any river waterway have kind of a unique relationship, especially when it comes to habitat. We know a lot of creatures and species travel up and down all of our river corridors, and providing landscaping that is really supportive of their needs is really critical and important, whether it's providing food and shelter for those. So we're going to require that any, again, new projects that would be in an inner core or of any RIO area would provide their landscaping they would use the county's master plan palette, which is mostly native, but it's a kind of a subset of native. It's things that are particularly appropriate to a riparian habitat. If you're in the outer core of a RIO, but you're not single family, you could also choose plants from that counties, but we'd also expand. You could also use native plant palettes as well. So again, knowing that it's not only important to have those the native and supportive plants immediately abutting the river, but actually when you start to go a little bit further, again, many of our species that travel up and down, again, those river habitat corridors, are birds and butterflies who are migrating a little bit. So we want to be able to have that kind of habitat area available to them, not just immediately adjacent to the river, to the actual river. And then in that same outer core, but if you're single family, we're going to further expand the plant palette that you'd be permitted to do. Again, if you have a project to actually expand and use California or watershed friendly. Again, trying to provide people a wide range of plants that they can put in their yards, but also make them responsible and recognizing the needs for of the species in the area. It's also important to note that many of the plants in these different palettes, don't require the fertilizer and the chemicals to maintain them, which is again a really important message for, especially in the river corridors. We're not putting toxins into the river and further polluting the water quality. In addition to the landscaping requirements, we're going to require, again, if you're immediately abutting the river, that there be a 10-foot landscape buffer for any, again, new projects, and we don't want to see any parking or buildings in that area. And then within any RIO, kind of regardless of where you're in, we're asking that things like parking and the trash and mechanical systems be be screened. So again, trying to create a more aesthetically pleasing corridor so people are coming and walking to the rivers or from, that we've created a nice aesthetic corridors through that area.
Claire,
Also-
only because I'm keeping my eye on the clock,
Okay.
and I do have
Just about.
stresses on how much time I have my
Okay.
colleagues here.
Okay.
Let me ask them if they have any questions of this particular item, given the level of information that's there. They will have access to this body information before they get to council. But in summary, what we are doing is essentially just providing another way in which we can orientate the use of space so that we can enhance the river's presence and link environmentally friendly policies that allows us to have a more sustainable environment for the corridor.
That's absolutely correct. It's really about creating a very positive environment within the area. It's really creating an opportunity to say these are special and unique neighborhoods that have these design standards that basically enhance people coming to and from the river, and said make it more pleasant and making it especially more suitable for the habitat that's in the area.
And they can look at the detail given the report that's before us.
Absolutely. I mean, hopefully today you are going to be actually asking to vote on the actual document in front of you and approve it.
Right.
We did have, hopefully they were shared to you, we've actually made a few technical changes to a couple of the text, just to really kind of clarifying language, just on a few definitions and clarifying. And we'll actually ask you to approve the amended document that you were circulated today.
Okay.
And recommend that it be transferred to City Council, and also ask you to approve the categorical exemption.
So I do have some cards. Are there any questions for Claire?
Just
Yes.
one very basic question, which is the overlay will apply to the banks of the river, and I mean, it's the river itself, but how far off do you go in terms of what this will apply to?
It really varies. So, and on item 1, which we're just talking about the Rio, where we're actually not establishing a specific boundary, it would really depend on the particular Rio being created and how wide that community or people want it to be. In the case of the LA Rio that we're going to be talking about in item 2, the boundaries, again, you were proposed a map, and I actually can bring the map up from the back as well that gives you, or if you want it to be maybe easier to look from back there, it's on that area in purple.
Right.
So it really varies. In the master plan, it was based on kind of what are some ways major kind of barriers, like whether it's a freeway or a major street that's perhaps a major block from the river.
But we also followed the lead of the different workshops of the river master plan process, in which that gave us a greater sense of understanding what people did or did not want to see, and that was one of the indicators that I think drove a lot of this decision making as well, if I recall correctly, Claire.
That's correct. We do, when we get to item 2, we do have some proposed changes to those boundaries that we're suggesting.
So-
based on some of the comments we had gotten. during
We
the
do have some speaker cards. Have any other questions?
Yeah, no, I just saw this right now for the first, the map actually, so this is, okay.
Okay, so let's do this. We'll have 1 minute, and we'll give you a little bit more if you need it for public comment. So Mr. Barry Johnson, then Kathy Deldon, and then we have 3 seats, and Ronald Zeff, come on up. 1 minute, and then if they need more, we'll be flexible. Yeah, Barry Johnson, Kathy Deldon, and Ronald Zeff.
Barry Johnson, Studio City Neighborhood Council and Studio City Residents Association. Back in November, we had submitted a list, both organizations had submitted a list of concerns, one of which is that the zone was not wide enough in Studio City going to the south of the river. It was very narrow, and the hillside baseline hillside ordinance had redesignated a lot of flatlands south of the river and south of Ventura as flatlands, and we asked that they be included so we could have a more consistent zone on either side of the river, which was done by our request, and they also included that area of Sherman Oaks south of Ventura, which is designated flatlands, which Sherman Oaks is now asking to opt out of. But they are also asking to opt out of an area north of Ventura that was always part of the original zone, and we would object to that. And we also would object to the taking of the south of Ventura zone from Long Ridge, which is the border with Studio City and Sherman Oaks, to Coldwater. They extended it all the way to Coldwater. They've extended it past Sherman Oaks's border. And, you know, Studio City's boundaries really is the Rodney Dangerfield of boundaries. We get no respect. So we would really ask that this proposed change not include Long Ridge to Coldwater, which is truly Studio City, and in the new redistricting plan will be part of CD2, not CD5, and also ask that you not exclude what they want to take out north of Ventura between Van Nuys and I think it's Sepulveda.
And Mr. Johnson, can you put that in writing for us just to make sure it's very clear the areas you're speaking to?
Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate that.
And
I'm having images of a red tie, but, you know.
Submit it?
Yes, if you can submit that. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Please.
Okay. Kathy Deladani, and I'm president of the Ventura-Cahuenga Boulevard Corridor Specific Plan Review Board. And our board opposes the implementation of the area from the river, the specific plan area. We would like we're asking that the specific plan area be removed from your proposed map, especially in the communities of Tarzana, Encino, and Sherman Oaks. Studio City, the river goes right to the boulevard, so that is okay. But it's just we want to see it because if you go down Reseda Boulevard from the river to Ventura Boulevard, it's 8,000 feet. And I've submitted a letter at the CPC on this. And that's really, and our impression was that it was only going to be approximately 2,500 feet and not 8,000, that's a mile and a half. So we're asking that, the Plan Review Board is asking that the specific plan area be removed. Thank you.
What's the name of that specific plan in that area?
What?
What's the name of that specific plan in there?
It's
What
the
was it referred to?
Ventura-Cahuenga Boulevard Corridor Specific Plan.
Yes.
And it's been in existence for 20 years.
It goes from Barham all the way out to the end of.
That's Cahuenga, yes.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Sir?
My name is Ronald Ziff. I'm Land Use Chair for the Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Council. And according to the latest redistrict map, we're part of CD4. We will be part of CD4
But
momentarily.
it's 5-4, so you got to wait till the end of the day to say that.
At any rate, the border between Sherman Oaks and Studio City is Coldwater. That was established back in 2001. It's the division between Sherman Oaks and Studio City neighborhood councils. It's very clear. It's in writing. It's in the documents. We have worked with staff, and we found staff very cooperative. The present boundaries as proposed by staff is very palatable to us, and we would like to stay with that. It's been voted on by our council.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for making the trip out to City Hall. Thank you very much. Yeah. We have Arnold Newman and Sean Bayless. If I don't know one.
Thank you and good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. And please give us your name.
Yes, Arnold Newman. I'm a conservation biologist and president of the Oak Forest Canyon Homeowners Association and the International Society for Preservation of Tropical Rainforest. These organizations thoroughly support the overlay district proposed here, and we loudly applaud Claire Bowen's work in manifesting this wonderful event and plan.
Thank you, sir. It's the greatest presentation today. Thank you very much. Mr. Bayless.
Sean Bales, Councilman Paul Cruz, Planning and Land Use Deputy. Hats off to Claire for doing, from Planning Department for doing just a tremendous job on this. She worked well with us. One of the code changes we had suggested Claire has made, and then with regards to new structures that are within the inner corridor, those properties that border the river. And then additionally, we had concerns over the boundary areas, especially those that were south of the 101 in the Encino area. It was quite a distance from the river to the 101. And so to have properties designated that were actually south of the 101 on the other side. So Claire worked with us, and the map represents the removal of those areas. And then additionally, similarly, the areas that are south of Ventura Boulevard, another large corridor with dual commercial on both sides of those streets. And those removals are represented on that map as well. So we support this map.
Okay, great.
So the removals already have been indicated on this map?
The one before you, I do not know. I just know that they're represented on here.
Those are the checkered ones?
Yes, the removals are the check marked.
So if we adopt
spots.
this today, those checkered ones would be removed?
That is correct.
Okay.
And it matches the, I passed out a revised map to all of you that mimics that.
Okay, and that area is mostly residential, correct?
That is correct.
Great. Okay, thank you so much. So Claire, you want to, any questions for Claire, given that we've already gone through public comment on item number 1?
Well, number one, as a council person who is going from Laurel Canyon Boulevard to all the way to the 405, potentially in this new redistricting, I could not support any change without having a direct meeting with the neighborhood leadership in this corridor at this time. I don't know what the schedule is on this. What is the schedule that we're doing?
Well, hopefully we are approving it today and moving it forward then would go to council, but not for adoption, would go to council just simply to be directed to city attorney's office.
Actually, the action council members would be referred to the city attorney's office, and we will also be adopting the revised plans. I don't know what the timeline is for the city attorney's office to prepare the ordinance. Then it would go to the council.
Well, I think I just know in representing people, this is very significant. And it's a whole new area that I would be representing, that I would want to assure that I'm representing the people right and listening to them. So it'd be tough for me to vote on this today because of the issues of a new district that is just being handed to me. Over 50% of my district has been expanded west from Laurel Canyon. It's absolutely amazing that the area that I gave up between Hoover and Western, and you know where that is in the central part of the city, has to go from Laurel Canyon all the way to the 405 and beyond. And so it's very significant for me. So I have a problem, Mr. Chair.
Well, let's do this. If
That's one thing.
Okay.
And then let me tell you the other things too.
Before. Okay.
The most significant public works project in the future may be what, Claire?
Revitalizing the LA River?
No. The high-speed rail.
Oh,
How do you address high-speed rail?
The
And rail, just a sense, because rail may be downsized from high-speed to look at the improvements of the Metrolink corridors.
Right.
How do we address that here?
The Rio.
And how much thinking have you done on that?
We've done a lot of thinking in regards to high-speed rail. The Rio ordinance is really they're just design overlays, so they really wouldn't have much bearing on the actual, if there was a high-speed rail come in, would have to abide by our same kind of standards in terms of any landscaping they did.
But I think we've not challenged ourselves to really look at high-speed rail.
Right. But
and this thing's been sitting around, so I have trouble supporting this.
Councilman Barnes, let's do this. And only because these are significant timing issues regarding redistricting and representation. Claire, what if we were to hold this and continue this item? Because I also know that Councilman Huizar has to leave in a few minutes. If we could continue this item for 1 week, allow for these questions to be addressed in a more calmer fashion and understand how we can address
I'm pretty calm. I'm just making my point.
I'm not saying you're not calm. I'm saying for everyone to be able to address this in a calmer way.
Just to suggest, Ken Bernstein with Department of City Planning, just one approach could be to continue it for a week. Another, as was mentioned, we have 2 items before us. We have the enabling ordinance to allow RIOs, which is item number 1. We have the LA RIO as item number 2. There's going to be some significant time for the Office of the City Attorney to prepare the ordinance. Obviously, during that time, we can continue the outreach we've been doing in the existing CD5, future CD4, and work with your office to brief you and give you an opportunity to interact with your future constituents. So I think there would be, given the timing and the realities of today's office of the city, I think there would be time to work through
Do you have to
those
run,
issues.
Jose? Because I don't want to dominate any more time, but I have some questions there.
I do, but I was going to say precisely that even if we approve it today, there's going to be some time before it comes back from the city attorney's office, which would provide Mr. Labange with some time to meet with the leadership out there.
Then what we could do is move this with recommended changes, or we can open it up so that it's not final, to allow for the
It won't
new
be
additions.
final. I think the concern on our, obviously this has been about 5 years in the making, and we certainly recognize the changes with redistricting, and the councilman is asking very appropriate questions. But we do want to keep it moving, give the city attorney a chance to begin their review, and keep it going forward while we do that additional outreach.
So what would be the best way to give an instruction? Can you guys help us over here, CLA or city attorney?
Well, we can be slow no matter what you say.
I didn't want to say that. City attorney, I love it. But to formally move this forward while keeping the door open, so to speak.
Well, I think it's the first thing.
What's the best way?
So your action, if the committee agrees, Councilman, is to refer it to the city attorney and to adopt the revised plans that Claire submitted in committee.
Okay.
And if I could ask, Mr.
For the
Chair,
record, though, I just want to make sure that nothing is moving forward to city council.
Correct.
Yet.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
But would the ordinance come back here or directly to
No,
city
it will come
council?
back here.
So, yeah, it's going to come back here at some point anyway.
Right.
So,
So then we can move item 1 with those directives.
Correct.
Okay.
Once the ordinance is ready, it comes back here.
Right.
Yeah, this is a question I got. Years ago, San Luis Obispo had a big discussion about front porches. You remember that at all as a professional?
No.
Okay, they had a discussion on front porches. So then they came up with a planning diagram to make sure that people had front porches, because they figured if people in their front porch, they were more neighborly. It was a big thing, and it may be predates, maybe a long time ago, but I remember it in my lifetime. Question here, what does a Rio do to a house that's out there?
So the Rio doesn't do anything to an existing house today, but let's say you tore down your house and you are immediately adjacent to the river. Let's say more like a multifamily. We're actually going to require, if you're in this area and we did a Rio, that you would actually have to do some kind of river frontage door. We want to make sure that, again, there's opportunity for those new residents to be able to access the river. We're also going to require that anybody, again, immediately adjacent to that river would have to also, if they did want to put any kind of fence, they'd have to provide a gate so that, again, people could have access from the river gateway or the bicycle paths to
Making
their
a backyard into a
facility.
front yard.
Say it again?
We're making a backyard into a front yard.
Yeah, I got it, but let me ask you, so let's say you're on the river, you'd want a gate from the private property to the public property.
That's correct, but it would allow you to restrict that access, though, to your residents or your employees. We're not
But
requiring.
even though if you're on a cul-de-sac and you could walk through a gate on the cul-de-sac, like on Marsh Street, Marsh Street, you ever been on Marsh Street?
Right, but there are places where you might be a distance from a cul-de-sac or some other public entry, and there's actually been a lot of interest. We've even seen it in a lot of the developments that have come along the river in the intervening years, where it's actually very helpful then for them to be able to put some kind of gate while they're developing it. We're not requiring that to be a public gate, but just be for their employees or their.
I understand
residents.
that, okay.
Okay, so we can move this item.
Well, here, but just so you know, I have real concerns on the high-speed rail, and not just here, but through the central part of the city. If we try to, what's our plan from Main Street all the way down through Olympic Boulevard? And I think we should have that discussed. And absolutely, I want to know, has the bikeway been placed in a mindset by planners, both sides of the river and the valley?
Yes, I mean, there's a lot. Planning has been very, very actively involved in the conversations around the high-speed rail, as well as obviously the bike paths. Nothing that we're doing with the Rio interferes or conflicts with those.
But do they have to stop and rethink whatever they're doing because of the Rio?
It would require them to at least incorporate the design standards that we've established here when they were doing, really at their construction and design phase.
Have you met with High Speed Rail California?
Absolutely, a number of times.
Okay. So, and they feel comfortable with this?
With the Rio?
Yeah.
Again, it really has no impact on that. A few designs.
Well, I just find it.
Our
I just find it difficult because I talk to senior citizens in Elysian Valley who are fearful of the city from past experiences, whatever those past experiences. Now there's a whole new planning swath, which may make a lot of sense in our new vision, but I just want to make sure we engage in people. And then you have this big public works project that is significant to the whole state, and it's significant to Union Station, which is adjacent to the river. And how are we looking at that? What are we doing?
Well, Councilman Labange, we have formed a task force to address the issues of the high-speed rail, and that was done about a year and a half ago. There have been a series of meetings between the different departments overseeing the plans. As a result, alternative measures have been made, recommendations. There's a new pathway where they are now suggesting that the rail line go from Union Station underground and pop up above I believe, around the 2 freeway going north. Then there's a whole corridor alignment that begins to evolve there, which still will require more analysis from the task force formed by the city. So we have several letters, documents that assess the impacts, and through the EIR process, we've been very diligent about making sure every time they brought up a whole different scenario that we were commenting on their impacts. We've been doing this for the past 5 years, I believe.
I understand, but it hasn't been done in a council committee that I've been involved in. I was on transportation.
No, we did.
Or even in this, I don't see another thing. All I'm just saying, everybody, is there's big things happening. This is very significant. There's a new political boundary that's happening. I want to make sure. I hear a little dissension between some respected, and everybody's respected in this room, community leaders. So I want to make sure I do the right thing as I represent people, and that we achieve what we're trying to achieve. And I also think, like Universal has no say on this, right? Because it's county land.
They've actually provided us a lot of comments.
No, but they don't. If they're doing something on Universal's property, they don't have to come to you because they're not in the city, right?
Well, they're portions of the.
Yeah, but about a fingernail.
Right.
Okay, all right. So we got it right. It's a fingernail. So some of these are significant things, and because it's I want to say trapezoidal or whatever, it's in a box.
Trapezoidal.
It's different than what is, let's say, from Travel Town south through Elysian Valley. How we could better design the river as we look forward on that. So these are things that I think are real key. That I want to make sure we make the right decisions collectively.
And I completely respect your concerns, Councilmember, and I believe, given the timeframe's been addressed and the level of flexibility between now and before it comes back to this committee, ample time will be offered and supported to make sure we get that feedback from the constituency.
Yeah.
And City Attorney obviously is going to move as fast as they can on this, as stated, but, we will do what we can. So,
just last question. Have you gone before the neighborhood councils or neighborhood associations throughout the Valley Corridor on this plan?
In the master plan,
in this Rio.
Right, on the Rio.
Every
yes,
neighborhood, just like they do, DWP has an outreach committee for neighborhood councils. Do we have an outreach committee for the river?
We were outreach for, I'm the.
I just wonder, is any neighborhood council representatives here? Do you feel the city has done a adequate job in outreach? Yes.
I think there could have been more over.
But they've done. Okay, that's all. We've tried, but we want to try a little better.
Okay,
so we have time. If we push this forward to the city attorney comes back here. I'll have time to reach out as well if this thing is approved by the.
And item number 2 is the sister partner to this, so we should move on item 2 as well. Okay. So let's go there. But we have the directive. Can you repeat it?
Yes, item 1, the directive, council members, is to refer to the city attorney to prepare the ordinance and to adopt the revised maps and documents that Claire submitted.
And that'll be the action of the joint committee.
Yes, council.
Thank you very much. Item number 2?
Item 2 is a proposed ordinance again, and this one establishes the first LA River SUD.
Okay, Claire?
For those who don't know what SUD is.
Supplemental Use District, council member.
Very good.
So
you didn't know what a WIGO was, did you?
No, I didn't.
All right, we're equal.
So in item 2 is really where we'd be discussing the details of the actual map. Item 1 was simply establishing the design standards for the supplemental use district, and then item 2 is the map for the boundaries of the actual Los Angeles River Improvement Overlay District.
Oh, and that would complete. the message from item number 2, correct?
Yes, and so we'd be asking you to approve the negative declaration and approve the proposed ordinance.
Great. So we do have cards on number 2. We'll get through these real fast.
Okay.
Kathy Del Don, Arthur Golding, and Ronald Ziff. Come on up. It's item number 2. You got a good, strong minute.
Okay. I'll be quick because I'll probably repeat the same thing I did before. Kathleen Deladani, President of the Plan Review Board for the Ventura Coin.
You could say, just as I stated, number
all right.
1.
Just, okay. It's the revised one is that we do support it because it takes out portions of the specific plan we feel that would place unnecessary financial burdens. Plus, the distance is too far from the river. Plus, it would provide these financial burdens on the commercial property owners.
Thank you, Ms.
in the
Deladani.
plan. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sir?
Ronald Ziff, Sherman Oaks. Can we start a fresh clock?
Sure, go ahead.
Ronald Ziff, Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Council Land Use Committee, and we support the current boundaries revised as they are here. As they were originally, we felt it placed too much of a burden on the property owners over time and might affect their property values over time. And that was the issue we concerned ourselves with. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Golding.
Arthur Golding. I am here today representing the Council for Watershed Health, a board member of that council, and I chair its committee, its Landscape Ethic Committee, which promotes sustainable landscape design in Southern California. And we participated in drafting, in advising the planning staff as they were drafting the standards, and we support them and urge you to approve it.
Thank you, Mr. Golding. Arnold Newman, Eric Bruins, and Barry Johnson. Come on up.
Good afternoon again. I would, the homeowner organization, Oak Forest Canyon Homeowner Organization, is indeed in Sherman Oaks, and Sherman Oaks residents, and especially those within my homeowner organization district, were very concerned about the previous line south of the river into the hillside area, which is really far out of the floodplain of the river, and so inconsistent, I think, with the plan itself. And since that's been amended, we heartily approve, and my previous luminous comments would suffice.
Thank you very much. Mr. Johnson.
Barry Johnson, Studio City Neighborhood Council and Studio City Residents Association. Just to reiterate, the border between Studio City and Sherman Oaks, south of Ventura Boulevard, is Long Ridge Avenue. It's not Coldwater Canyon. And this takes it from Coldwater Canyon, and Studio City has supported going south of Ventura Boulevard. And as you'll note, the Plan Review Board did not include Studio City in what they were asking. And again, just we want to not have this removed between Coldwater and Long Ridge. And all this that the previous gentleman was talking about that he said wasn't in the floodplain, that's actually the border right there is between the hillside ordinance and the baseline flatland ordinance. So all that you're removing there is all under 15% grade and considered flatlands, even though they automatically consider it hillside just because it's south of Ventura. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Bruins.
Yes, I'm Eric Bruins. I'm here representing the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority. I know we had our ranger Walt earlier. We do a lot of, I'm actually going to speak more about the landscaping side, which maybe should have been item 1. But we're really excited to see, we've been doing a lot of improvement projects and landscaping along the river corridor in the actual right-of-way and adjacent to the bike path, and we're excited to see those kinds of landscaping treatments get expanded beyond the river corridor. Particularly the river functions as part of the Pacific Flyway. There's all kinds of ecological benefits to expanding these kinds of native and drought-tolerant landscaping outside of the immediate river and inside the river where it's concrete. And so we're just really excited to see this moving forward. Thank you.
Great. Any questions?
How's Ernie's Walk doing?
How's
Ernie's Walk?
I'm not familiar with.
Anybody knows Ernie's Walk out by? How's it doing out there by Sepulveda? Dr. Armstrong, you're a good doctor. Have you ever seen Ernie's Walk? How's it going?
Last time I saw it was last year and it was doing fine.
All right, good. Okay, thank you.
All right. That actually had its own show, too.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
All right.
So again, council members, for item 2, you would refer to the city attorney and you would adopt the revised maps and draft ordinance that Claire submitted in committee.
Okay, and that would be the directive of this committee?
This come back here again?
Absolutely, Council.
Yes,
Good,
it's
good. And you
ordinance.
met with CBS and met with Warner Brothers
Yes.
and anybody's on the way? Any
Yes,
studios?
Okay, so that'll be the action of this committee, the joint committee, and that concludes the joint committee for these 2 items.
You got 2 more items.
2 more items left on the River Committee. Gotta go,
And,
okay.
item 6, Councilman.
Thank you very much, Councilmember.
Item 6, Councilman, is an LA River Revitalization Corporation. It's a status update as to their operations.
Okay. My lobbying partner in DC. How are you doing, sir?
Good afternoon, council members.
Good afternoon.
Please introduce yourself.
My name is Omar Brownson, Executive Director of Los Angeles River Revitalization Corporation. I'm here to provide our quarterly update. We had a brief update on our bridge project at the last ad hoc committee meeting. I focus on 3 Ps, the projects that we're working on, policies that we're moving forward, and programs that we're initiating. But there's a 4th P today, and that's a new person, Jennifer Sampson. Today's her first day as our new project manager for the River Revitalization Corporation.
Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you.
With respect to projects, we recently completed a concept plan with Perkins & Wool on the Lincoln Heights Jail. We've presented that in about 6 different forums, from larger community meetings to sort of smaller meetings with respective agencies. We've presented that to your office as well. We're excited about we've got a lot of enthusiasm for that concept plan.
What's the concept plan for Lincoln Heights Jail?
For the Lincoln Heights Jail, it's a 230,000 square foot building, and we've been pushing the envelope in terms of big picture from how do you actually access the river, either through under the rail to over it, trying to balance community and economic development. So Homeboy Industries has been part of our conversation and whether or not we could bring some of the food processing and jobs that they do. Recreation has been a historic use in that with the boxing facility as well as filming. Some of the sort of pushing the envelope ideas that we're working with, one is a climbing wall on the outside of that building. This would be one of the 3rd highest outdoor climbing walls in the country, something that we can engage youth with, that we can adopt some local schools, but it also can be part of ecotourism. So finding a balance between supporting a resource for the community, but also providing sort of new uses. Another is looking at the rooftop and pushing the envelope in terms of urban ag, rooftop gardening. Again, you've got incredible views from that site, and so to the extent that it can become an event space, those are some of the sort of shorter-term efforts that we're working on.
Have you thought about drafting anybody out of the brewery as far as artists in one way?
We've looked at actually putting a brewery in there. Again, part of the idea is to
But the old brewery on Main Street with the artists.
Yes.
Right. Artists.
Yeah, artist lofts or something.
What's really interesting here, Councilmember, is that this tends to be the sanctuary for many of the youth who are not involved in any of the gang culture activity. And this is a safe zone for many of the kids in Northeast. So to have this walk, this great wall that they can climb, the urban agriculture, working with other uses that speak to the arts, would be an amazing opportunity. And it kind of brings back what used to be there when they had the gym. But it has a whole range of other activities. So there's a lot of good here, and hopefully we can get the business side of this to cooperate as well. So that's our challenge, and it's very enlightening. And if there's a way to send them a package of the concept, I think, Tom, you would get it'd be exciting to see.
Sure.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to share with us, sir?
Just one also timely item. Is related to G2. The Department of Toxic Substance Control is accepting comments through this Friday, Lupe in your office was able to get an extension on that. And so that's an important opportunity for the public to participate. It really is essential because the recommendations for how that property is remediated, regardless of who owns it, if they recommend to just cap it, even if one were to acquire it, you would have to go back through the DTSC process, literally unwind it in order to recommend anything beyond capping it. And so getting public comment on that, and again, comments have been extended by a week.
So we'll take one step at a time, and those who are listening to this hearing, hopefully you'll be stimulated to participate in your observations in that important document.
Just the last item from, we're still proceeding to move the bridge project forward and working with respective council offices to do so.
Great.
As it relates to the policy issues, I do want to just note that we did it in a coalition of folks, and so FOLAR, the Council for Watershed Health, and the LA Conservation Corps were all part of the initial funding that engaged representation in DC, and as well as we had 5 other nonprofits, so 9 nonprofits overall, writing letters supporting the efforts that resulted in the $100,000 in the Obama, as well as the $350,000.
Right.
So we hope to sort of continue to bring that sort of coalition effort forward.
Plus, you have the lobbying firm from Water and Power working with the council and the city in partnership as well. So it was a good tag team.
Yes, it was sort of the inside-outside strategy. Finally, the 2 things coming up programmatically. One, we're working with Councilmember LaBonge's office on the 5K run, the fun run, May 9th, I believe. And so we've been, our office has been working with the council office on it. The second programmatic item that we're working on is to create an LA River Festival. We're partnering with Aaron Paley at Cars, who produced Ciclavia and other Chinatown Summer Night Lights. So he's a partner with us. The vision is to close Spring Street Bridge on a Sunday afternoon from sort of Downey Recreation to the cornfields, and have an event across the bridge with maybe some art, music actually in the channel. The goal, if we can do this right, is 25,000 people. We're trying to do something that is big and hopefully replicable. The goal is, if we do this right again, is to have 3 of them this summer. I know
That's awesome.
Time is ticking, but we think continuing to build that awareness and making the river fun is an essential part of all that we're doing.
It's a great use of space. Fantastic. Any questions?
No, I've organized a river run starting in Los Feliz, running down. I invited all the people who are involved. We're just trying to get it going, because everybody says we want to do something. We're just going to do it. We're starting country, which means it's just going to make it happen. And then we'll build from that as we do in anything, and it will be exciting. I would just say as far as access, how do you get access from Spring Street down to the river?
The idea is not to let the sort of public, but maybe it'll be more art sort of installations, or so people will be viewing it down. The idea is to have it more towards the evening and have almost a light show on the banks, so that people can still see it from above looking down.
Be like a stage.
Yes.
4th Street, though, is a very popular spot of Ciclavia, as far as it's lower than the 6th Street Bridge.
Right.
So I know you're going to look.
Well, I like Spring Street.
I know you like your district, so that's it.
We also have the parking. If we are successful in getting 25,000 people, parking is a major consideration. So having the cornfields right there, some of the logistics. I'd love to have it on the soft bottom portion, but for the ambition, we felt like this was.
I got
that. We're making it
on
happen.
a transportation issue, and I've always fought for but not successful in getting the subway extended from Union Station to 6th Street. Right now, live 3 rail tracks exist to 6th Street, and it's a missed opportunity, and we missed it so many times. Industry is gobbling up, if you've been down Santa Fe Avenue, parcels there that could have been a great way to tell everybody just take the train to the river.
Well,
thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and welcome. And
Keep
good
in
luck.
touch, Omar.
Okay.
On the other thing, we're going to work with Mr. Garcetti now that his area is North Atwater, because I'll get the bridge all the way to his side. But when I get about a foot away, he got to come up with the dough.
Sounds like another meeting. Our item number 7, and that was a report. Thank you so much. Item number 7?
7, Councilman, is an LA River Corporation
Calm
under
down, guys.
under the LA Conservation Corporation. It's a status report. I don't know if it's the same item or if it was.
No, it's the Conservation Corps.
Oh, okay.
We have Jasmine. This is our last item. And then we have one public comment card. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. My name is Yasmin Mero Corona. I'm with the Los Angeles Conservation Corps. Quarterly update from the River Corps. This quarter, actually this session was a smaller session that kind of served as ambassadors and maintenance crew on the river from Egret Park to Los Feliz. And our crew managed to remove 52,300 pounds of trash this time. Bulky items kind of decreased because we were able to remove that abandoned trash bin on Ripple Street that became a dumping ground, and we managed to get that out. So it's little by little less illegal dumping was done there. So we didn't have much bulky items this quarter. We are having an increase of graffiti throughout the river. We removed 41,433 square feet of graffiti, and that's on a weekly basis. I mean, we're constantly getting tagged throughout that the 7-mile stretch, and we move it, it goes back on. It's done on the poles now, on the asphalt. So we're painting the asphalt black. We're painting the poles. We're trying to remove anything we can with graffiti remover. The signs. Some of the signs would need to get replaced as far as the bike path signs, because after all the graffiti and being able, trying to remove it with some sort of solution hasn't worked. So we've had to kind of like scrape some of it off, or even the solution has kind of peeled the sign off. So several of them have to be removed. We've helped Councilman LaBonge with his cleanup in October. We've done a presentation to Sunrise Elementary, and we actually had the opportunity, they filmed Pit Boss, so they used some of our crew members. I didn't know about the program, but it's with the little people, they call him Shorty, and it's a cable channel that he saves pit bulls that are abandoned, and he used the LA River as one of their settings. And that was a great opportunity for our crews, and using the LA River as a backdrop to that. We hope to continue on this effort in the river. Just hearing all these great projects, we have to keep in mind that maintenance is a big issue. If there's not any money set aside for these programs like this to maintain it, then there's a collapse of that, our beautiful efforts of beautifying the river. One of the other updates that I was asked to make was our non-motorized boating program, pilot program. It was very successful. It was through August 12th through September 25th. Our press conference was the 8th. We were out there Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. We had 280 slots available at $50 each, all sold out within 10 minutes. On Fridays, we were able to take out, the whole purpose on Friday was to take out youth. We were able to take out youths from Anahuac, Pacoima Beautiful, Leopoldie, and they were the lucky ones because Councilman Reyes actually went out with the group, and they really enjoyed that. We had several groups from Clean and Green, and of course, since it was a new venture, we had lots of media and political staff out there. Currently, we're still waiting for the Army Corps to decide the 2012 season. We haven't heard from them, and we hope to take on that challenge again.
Beautiful. And one of the, I think, challenges is what we learned programmatically on this kayak program, and how we can implement it in the Glendale Narrows area. So hopefully we can expand and maybe multiply its benefit and access.
That would be
hopefully
great.
Generate revenue.
That would be great. I know that MRCA is trying to do that in Tongue Wash, so that'd be something different.
Right. So again, these are ways to find resources to fund the young people on the maintenance side of it. So we've got to keep looking at it aggressively to be creative and generate those opportunities. Councilmember?
Yeah, I just wanted to say the bulky item was a very large piano, which was in the river. I don't know if you saw it in the LA Times. And there was a very large horse, like 18 hands, that tried to get behind the artist who was playing the piano, but the horse didn't want to go in the river. But they did take the picture, and I'll make sure you see it. It was in the LA Times.
Okay.
And then also the Corps proudly marched when you had the mechanical breakdown in the parade in Chinatown on New Year's.
Yeah.
The Corps was walking down the street on Broadway, and I got them in the parade, and they lined up and they took their brooms, and they marched down and got applause from the people, which was nice from the Corps. So
And
it was
Tom
good.
was on his bike, which was
no.
very, very, very
Yeah.
practical.
Yeah.
Good job, Tom.
Oh, no, that's all right.
Reaching
the
out
Corps
to
is the
people.
greatest, though, 30 years. And Mickey Cantor, who I saw the other day, was instrumental when he worked for then Governor Brown, who started it all. But the Corps is one of our greatest success stories. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that concludes all items. We do have one card on public comment, and that was a report, and that is Ms. Ida Talala. And after you, ma'am.
Bless you. Bless you.
Bless you too.
I promise not to take too much time.
Please. Go
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Ida Talala, and I'm the coordinator for Echo Park Tap Trash Abatement Project. We've met our match on 2 grants, which totaled $15,000, and the LA Conservation Corps, Clean and Green, have been very, very helpful, and I'm glad for their work. Please fund them. Also, I was here earlier last year on the Watershed and Storm Awareness Month to declare that so that we are all aware of LA's precious resource, including not polluting the LA River. And I would provide any information or work on this, but we need something like a Stormwater Awareness Month. Take care.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Talala. Thank you for your patience and for your contribution. Thank you very much. Seeing no one else for public comment, this concludes this meeting. Thank you very much.